Michelle Obama's a man.
Of course. You don't know that?
I didn't know that, no.
Well, now you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joan Rivers mentioned it publicly, and she was dead 2 weeks later.
There's a line the internet loves more than any punchline Joan Rivers ever wrote. Michelle is a trans. It's short, it's chaotic, and it's the kind of throwaway sidewalk quip that got clipped into legend. And then, 2 weeks later, Joan was gone. That timing turned a one-liner into a ghost story. People still swear that's not coincidence, it's a clue. They say powerful people were offended, phones rang, and a message got sent. But if you actually look at the trail this myth leaves behind, hospital records, state investigations, fact checks, and the way one misheard name got weaponized, you start to notice something the rumor mill never highlights. Most of the receipts evaporate as soon as you touch them. Here's the wild part. Joan's death doesn't read like a spy thriller. It reads like what it was, an outpatient clinic catastrophe. The New York City Medical Examiner ruled she died of anoxic encephalopathy after a hypoxic arrest during a laryngoscopy and upper GI endoscopy with propofol sedation. That's medical speak for her brain was starved of oxygen during a procedure and she never recovered. The report even used the phrase predictable complication of medical therapy, which is the last thing you'd expect if this were some cloak and dagger takedown. State investigators later cited the clinic, Yorkville Endoscopy, for multiple deficiencies tied to Joan's care. Coverage at the time detailed failures around monitoring, consent, and decision-making. The facility faced accreditation trouble. Months later, coverage focused on exactly how standards fell short. Years later, Joan's family settled a malpractice suit with the clinic and doctors. The amount wasn't disclosed, and as usual, a settlement doesn't equal criminal foul play. It's accountability in civil court.
Distinguished guests and men and women of the finest military in the world. Most of all, Admiral Mullen, Deborah. Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today.
But this is where the story takes a turn. The internet didn't want a root cause analysis. It wanted revenge poetry. So the narrative jumped rails. CIA plots, silencing, a body count. Sex 0.05. The timing made it irresistible. Joan says a messy thing on camera, and days later, tragedy. Click, share, repeat. The myth didn't need hard evidence, it needed vibes and a villain. And it found both. The best myths always do. A big piece of fuel was that Michael clip. You've seen it. Obama at a podium saying, "Michael and I," and the frame stops right there, like a smoking gun. One cropped snippet and boom, millions convinced he slipped. Full context, he was acknowledging Admiral Mike Mullen's family at a ceremony, and Michael is Admiral Mullen's first name. The version that went viral is chopped to turn a mundane shout-out into a marriage confession. Another clip gets thrown into the pile. A half sentence where Obama stumbles saying "my Michelle," which is how real humans talk when they're off teleprompter. Edit, crop, loop, and suddenly a tongue slip becomes Exhibit B. When you realize how tiny the raw material is, it's almost funny. Almost. And if you think that sounds like Hollywood folklore, wait until you hear how the documents keep changing. The internet loves to drop a screenshot that proves Michelle was registered to vote as male in Illinois in the 1990s. Looks official enough on first glance. Then, election officials and fact checkers point out the obvious. Their office didn't issue that document. The formatting doesn't match, and voter registration doesn't work the way the meme claims. It's the oldest trick in the playbook. Fabricate a form, stamp a seal, and watch it ricochet through feeds. The doctor story is even wilder. Posts claim a campaign physician named Dr. Rafael Espinazo spilled first-hand details that Michelle is secretly male. Great for clicks, except that supposed doctor doesn't track to any credible record in the role the rumors assign him.
The noise levels up. Want to make sure he knows we're coming, or she.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if she's got some cubs, that's when you really got to worry.
Yeah. You know what my kids asked me? They said, "You've got to ask the president, does anything scare him?"
You know, well, when Michelle's mad, I get worried. There's a certain look that she can give.
Even the sites that first pumped the claim were known disinformation farms, laughing at how easily rage bait goes viral. So the proof category starts to look like this: one chopped name, one stutter, a forged voter registration, a phantom doctor with a blockbuster quote, and a handful of altered photos that mysteriously can't be sourced back to any legitimate archive. When you zoom out, it feels less like investigation and more like collage. Bits and pieces glued into a narrative people already want to believe. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, but what about the part where there are no pregnancy photos and the daughters are never babies in the public archive? That's internet telephone. There are thousands of official images of the family, and not having paparazzi belly shots isn't evidence of anything. More importantly, Michelle already told the world how the girls came to be. In 2018, she said she'd had a miscarriage years earlier, and that the couple used IVF to conceive. Yes, actual real-life fertility medicine, the kind millions of people rely on, quietly and without a press release. She laid it out while promoting her memoir, not as a plot twist, but to make other women feel less alone. That honest detail should have ended 10 years of whisper campaigns. Instead, it made them pivot. New angle. The girl's real parents are family friends, a Chicago OBGYN and her husband. The evidence comes back to the same pattern: miscaptioned photos and a chain of "people are saying" that unravels the moment you check original sources. Meanwhile, the rumor ecosystems keep churning because the truth has no novelty. It just sits there, calm, boring, verifiable. But this is where the story takes a turn. The rumor machine needed something fresher than a sidewalk quip and an edited ceremony clip. It found a real tragedy and rewired it for engagement. In July 2023, Tafari Campbell, former White House sous chef who later cooked for the Obamas, drowned while paddleboarding in Edgartown Great Pond, Martha's Vineyard. The Massachusetts medical examiner ruled it an accident. State police clarified the depth, confirmed he wasn't wearing a life jacket, and said there was no head trauma. Another paddleboarder called for help immediately. That's the record. What came next was the internet. People pushed claims that he had a tell-all coming, or that a personal Obama doctor handled the autopsy, or that he'd been found in 3 feet of water, or that nothing made sense unless there was foul play. Authorities and reporters knocked down each point as it spread. But once conspiracy oxygen gets in the room, facts struggle to breathe. If you are keeping score, that means the myth now leans on 3 pillars. 1. Joan's death equals assassination, not medical disaster. 2. A couple of chopped or misheard words equals confession. 3. A tragic drowning equals cover-up. Each one feels cinematic. Each one breaks under daylight. So why does it stick? Because conspiracy content is sticky by design. It's optimized for the dopamine blast of "I see what others don't." It's body policing wrapped in political tribalism, then amplified by platforms that reward engagement first and reality later. And yes, there's an ugly undercurrent here. Misogynoir and transphobic framing are baked into the joke, so debunking doesn't just feel like fact-checking, it feels like you're ruining someone's fun. That's the point. The meme's power is that it lets people laugh while calling a woman a liar about her own body. Around the halfway mark, here's your second gentle push. And if you think that sounds like Hollywood folklore, hashtag meta, pause, recause, setbacks 0.05 cents, wait until you hear how the evidence keeps getting laundered. A bad screenshot appears on an anonymous blog, then a news site aggregates it, then a personality with a big audience says, "People are asking questions," then your uncle posted to Facebook with a caption like, "Just sharing." By the time a legitimate outlet calls the election board or polls the full video, the narrative has outrun the correction. AFP review of the Illinois doc hoax cycle. Reuters on edited media. We should talk about the psychology here because it's the only part of this saga that actually explains what you're seeing. Rumors survive by moving the goalposts. Prove the Michael clip is out of context? They point to a body language breakdown. Show the voter registration is fabricated? They say the board is covering. Confirm IVF from Michelle herself? They pivot to whose eggs, whose womb, whose timeline. Anything to drag a private medical journey back into public inspection. It's a carnival game where the target keeps sliding left every time you get close. Now, let's ground everything back in the receipts people rarely cite. Joan's death is documented in excruciating detail. New York's medical examiner, the Department of Health, and multiple newsrooms followed the chain. Sedation, procedure, oxygen, arrest, hospitalization, death. Yorkville endoscopy was cited for deficiencies. A confidential civil settlement followed. There's no criminal ruling that points to anything like a hit job. There is, however, a familiar story about patient safety in outpatient settings and how protocols fail in real time. The Michael clips trace to an admiral named Michael. The ceremony has an agenda, a transcript, and full video. You can watch the uncut moment where the rumor supposedly begins and see that it doesn't say what the rumor says it does. The doctor who claims to have peeked in a campaign bathroom has no verifiable footprint in the role he's assigned. The story chain leads back to satire and troll farms, whose business model is hoaxes that travel farther than corrections. The Illinois voter registration proof is not an official document, per election officials and independent verifiers. It's the digital equivalent of a rubber stamp bought at a party store. Michelle's own account of fertility struggles and IVF exists on camera and in print. You don't have to like her politics to accept that millions of families use the same science, quietly. Hashtag meta, sex 0.05, while the rest of us mind our business. And before we wrap, there's one final detail. The reason this rumor never dies isn't because it's convincing, it's because it's useful. To some creators, it's a shortcut to traffic. To some audiences, it's a wink that says, we know the truth the mainstream hides. And to political actors, it's a 2-for-1. You get to mock a black woman's body and feed an algorithm that punishes nuance. That doesn't mean you have to like the Obamas, agree with them, defend them, or even watch their speeches. It just means the serious claims require serious proof. And after a decade of viral edits and phantom PDFs, the scoreboard still reads the same. Medical examiner, not a spy master. Ceremony tape, not a confession. Phantom doctor, not a source. Tragic drowning, not a murder mystery. So where does that leave Joan? Honestly, with something more human than an internet ghost story. A sharp, fearless comedian died because a routine procedure went catastrophically wrong. Investigators documented failure points. A family grieved. A settlement closed a chapter that no one wanted. The punchline wasn't that she knew too much. The punchline is that the most dangerous room in America might just be the one where we treat routine care like a photo op. Most folks remember the sidewalk soundbite. The part rarely mentioned is the paperwork. Paperwork is boring. It doesn't trend. But if you really want to know why the story keeps coming back, it's because the myth is a better movie than the truth. And the internet always picks the movie. Here's what I'll leave you with. Curiosity is healthy. Questions are fine. But there's a difference between asking and accusing. If a claim needs a cropped video, a forged form, and a fictional doctor to stand up, maybe it was never standing to begin with. So tell me in the comments, which receipt have you seen that convinced people the most? Was it the Michael clip, the Illinois document, or something else entirely? I want to hear what's circulating in your feed, because the only way to defang a rumor is to drag it into the light. If you found this breakdown useful, hit like so more people see the factual timeline. Drop your thoughts below, especially if a specific clip keeps popping up in your circles, and subscribe for more deep dives that separate receipts from recycled folklore. New uploads every week. See you in the next one.